I'm Mayor Jen Grigoraitis, and welcome to the Melrose Minute, where we bring you news you can use from City Hall. And I'm thrilled today to be joined by City Council President and Councilor at Large, Leila Migliorelli. Welcome, President Migliorelli.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much for being here.
Happy to be here.
So I wanted to talk today with you about the budget process and the really important role that the council plays in that. There's been a lot of discussion about the school budget process so far, and obviously the city budget process is going to be kicking off on May 6th. Can you talk a little bit about what the role of the council is in the budget process?
Sure. So as you referenced, the schools have just gone through their thorough budget process, but our process really begins in May and runs through mid to end of June. And what we do is take a hard look at each of the departments and their budgets and review their operating budgets. By state law, we have to either pass a budget or the budget that has been sent down will go into effect.
Right, so unlike the state, we actually have a firm deadline of June 30th to have an operating budget for next fiscal year, which for those who are unsure, the fiscal year runs July 1 to June 30th.
Correct.
Excellent. And so I think there's oftentimes some confusion about what the council can or cannot do as it relates to the budget. So you're going to see and hear from each department head talking about their department budget, and then what are the options that the council has before it with those budgets?
Yes, I think there is a lot of misconceptions about what the city council can and can't do. What we cannot do is make a motion to raise a particular department budget. So if we get questions from constituents, I'd like to see XYZ thing, new program, that's not our role in the budget. That is in the mayor's office. But what we can do are to suggest additional line item cuts, and those would have to be, a motion would have to be made by a councilor, and the council in committee would have to vote to approve that, and that would just be a broad cut and not a specific cut. And it's not also, a cut would not be to then have, take this money from here and put it here. We're not allowed to do that. It's just sort of a straight cut across the board. But we are hoping that through your deliberative process with your office and your department heads, what we're seeing is more or less a finalized version that we can just kind of have a second set of eyes on in terms of accountability and transparency for the community.
Excellent. So I think the key takeaway for folks is the council can reduce any line item or actually can reject an entire department budget, and then that decision is final. How a reduction gets implemented would actually be the purview of the mayor and the department head in question. So I also think it's important for the public to know you're not eliminating necessarily specific positions or specific services. You could be delivering a dollar reduction that we then have to implement on the city side.
Right, exactly.
Excellent. So the budget actually comes to you as one massive document with all these departments, and it's one order. So what folks will hear a lot in the appropriations meetings where you discuss the budget is a motion to move the bottom line. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, that's kind of not an intuitive comment. So what we're doing is looking at each line item in the budget, each department line item, and because at the end of every meeting what we do is motion to move the bottom line, basically means we've looked at that department, we agree with how the finances of the budget for that year, and we'll just be moving it to vote entirely on the budget at the end of June. So it's more or less just a check. We've reviewed this department line item budget, and then the full budget in its totality gets voted on by the council towards the end of June.
And what's the number of councilors that are needed to vote to pass a budget?
8.
8, so that's a supermajority, 8 out of 11.
Yes.
Okay, that's a high threshold.
Yes.
Hoping we meet it.
Yes.
And obviously with lots of interest from the public always in the budget because it's such an important document and really the foundation of everything that we do. How do people follow along or get engaged?
Yes, so on our website we will have posted, there's the typical meeting agenda website, so you will see that like you see our normal meetings, but we will provide some sort of additional detail and schedule so that the public can see which departments are coming when before the council. And so that way the public can find out that way. The meetings are recorded on MMTV and broadcast live.
Thank you, MMTV.
So you can, yes, thank you. You can watch them live on TV in City Council, City Hall chamber. And you can also, we provide opportunities for remote public participation. So people can either make it to City Hall. The meetings will be held starting at 7 o'clock on Mondays and Thursdays through from May 6th to about mid to end of June, or you can participate remotely. So there's a lot of ways to be engaged. I think particularly for the public, they should be aware that your announcement next week, May 6th, will provide an opportunity to kind of hear totality of the city budget, and then the weeks after that are just more granular department level pieces. But follow along on our website at thecitymelrose.org to get that full schedule.
Great. I think that's really helpful understanding of how folks can participate and follow along in the process. I know it's a long couple weeks for the council, lots of meetings that you all are doing on top of your full-time jobs and other obligations, so we're appreciative, and I know department heads are appreciative of the opportunity to talk about, you know, what they're getting for their department and what they need as well. Anything else about the process you want to share with the community?
I think you said it correctly. The department heads, it's really great to hear from the department heads and hear what they've been doing, what they've done over the past fiscal year, what they plan to do next fiscal year, and get a sense of that. It's a little bit like a annual update to the council in a way. So I think that it's important to stay engaged if you have, you're curious about how a certain department works, like listening to these meetings provides you with that insight into how a department works and how maybe they interact with one another as well. And I think it's just an important time, an important way that the city council can fulfill its goals of, fiscal transparency and accountability.
Great. Thank you so much for these updates, and I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.